gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for March the 6th, 2025. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, more analysts think Grand Theft Auto 6 could be $100, and Sega was the top video game publisher last year. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Jan Ochoa, everybody. Jan, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I think I mentioned last week that I'm forming the wrong wrinkles in my brain, but now I'm just like stretching the brain to its fullest extent. And here we are, Grubb. If people can see and hear me and this stream, that's fine. That's good.
Smooth, moisturized brains thriving in its lane. Well, not most of those things, but are you introducing new wrinkles in any way? Or is it all just kind of being wrung out to dry?
We want wrinkles, right? Wrinkles is
I think
good
we
for
want
the brain.
wrinkles. Yes, you want to introduce. Yes, yeah. Get
Okay.
wrinkles back in that bad boy.
Yeah, it's like when you leave a shirt crumpled up somewhere and then you put it on and it's like, man, I want to wear this, but there's too many wrinkles.
They say you want wrinkles. I just assume that that's right. I haven't really looked into it too much. I don't know what that gets you, what it does for you. More neurons, more connectors, synapses. These are things that go in the brain.
Let me tell you, Grubb, there's tons of nooks and crannies now to hide plenty of things in here or forget things.
Yeah, maybe that's my problem. I got too many extra folds, and I put everything in there, and then I can't remember anything. Jan, you're in the studio VO booth thing.
Yes.
Where are you?
I am in the San Francisco office. I'm in the VO booth. Among other places, because, not quite a return to office order, but I thought coming in more would help synergize with the GameSpot homies. Also would help with some of the baton passing we're doing. So we're trying this out.
Good. Yeah, I'm getting things set up, figuring out the best workflow. That has definitely been the biggest obstacle we're facing right now. Just, we're like, we want to do a lot with a little, but we don't want to do too much. But even doing like what we're doing right now at this point, it's like, okay, yeah, that's great. But we have definitely everyone's doing multiple jobs, and especially you. So figuring out the way to get this all as efficient as possible has been the biggest headache for sure. But cool. Hey, I'll say at the very least, the baton passing, handing off to other people, going from one show to the next has been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it. So that side's been worth it. Hopefully we can make everything else make sense.
Yes. For folks watching live right now, after today's news show, Tam and Lucy will be playing Split Fiction. So stay tuned.
Yep. We're going to hand over to them as soon as we're done here today, everybody, or whenever they're ready. Let's explain what we do here in the meantime. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings, or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with... Let's start here with the Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster reviews. It has a subtitle, and Mike Minotti gets mad if I don't remember subtitles, so I'll read these. Rune and Dunan Unification Wars. Love nonsense RPG names. It's got an 81 on OpenCritic, which I like to use because it just combines all the platforms into one, and we don't have to get all that messy. Like, I guess it has more reviews here. 81 on Metacritic, 79 out of 100 from Carrie Brunskill on PC Gamer, who said, these are decent enough remasters, but not the outstanding ones that these RPGs deserved. Heidi Kemps on GameSpot basically said the same exact thing, that these are good games. This remaster doesn't really do it justice, gave it a 6 out of 10. And then Alana Heggs at Nintendo Life gave it an 8 out of 10 and said, while not as feature-rich as some collections, Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster, Rune and Dunan Unification Wars, proves that these RPGs have largely stood the test of time. While the issues with the remaster don't take away too much from the original game's brilliance, we think these classics deserve the very best, boasting ambition, narrative stakes, and heartfelt and heart that a few other RPGs of that time can muster. Suikoden burns bright in its origins, and we hope Konami sees just how important this series is to many and makes a handful of tweaks. So, yeah, hey, but I know fans have been looking forward to this for a while. It's here. It is mostly like just serving up those games in a state that is acceptable, is kind of how people are putting it. And then when everyone talks about just the games themselves, they're like, yeah, these games are still fantastic, especially Suikoden 2. So yeah, any interest from you in checking these out?
Grub, this specific JRPG series, along with Dragon Quest, has kind of always eluded me. With Suikoden specifically, I don't want to say it feels like it's been impenetrable, but it definitely feels like a JRPG that I have to play alongside a guide of sorts.
Sure.
But I'm definitely happy that Suikoden fans are having a new avenue to recheck out Suikoden 1 and 2. Maybe I'll dip into this. I remember that, correct me if I'm wrong, Grub, or the chat, Suikoden is a series where you can recruit like an obscene amount of people, and like you have a big character pool to choose from. I think there was a PS2 game where you could recruit a duck.
That sounds right to me. Yes. that sounds
Sure.
accurate. Yeah. I think that is one of the appeals of the game. Of course, is that there's so many great characters that people love and specifically hone in on. I know Jason Schreier is a huge fan of Suikoden, and he said somewhere, I think it was on Twitter. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Jason Schreier. He basically said that, hey, this is a great way to play these games, that they have made some significant improvements in his assessment, that mostly being that the script has been reworked and updated and made as good as it possibly can be. And then there's some other stuff in there to improve the playing experience. And,
Okay.
you know, he's like #1 Suikoden 2 fan. So I trust him on that.
This specific JRPG franchise is also where I started learning that things aren't pronounced in my Western English brain.
Yeah.
Because I used to read it as Suikoden.
That's what Dan Reichert still says in our meetings. So that's, yeah, I'm getting used to it again.
But I don't think we've had like a big or a decent JRPG yet this year. So I'm definitely curious to check this out, especially if folks say 2 is a good entry point for the series.
Right. I think this is one where you could just jump right into 2 and you'd be completely fine. I think they're mostly disconnected for the most part. But yeah, hey, good news though, if you do get into Suikoden, there's more Suikoden coming. They're making that mobile. They're making that mobile game that is apparently a free-to-play gotcha game, as far as anyone can tell. Boy, fans were like, "Jesus Christ, Konami, you're so back in so many ways, and yet you're still doing this stuff." This is the first new Suikoden game in quite some time, but yeah, it's happening.
I feel like I'm responsible for this, Grub. I think on some
Jan,
program. I think on some program I had thought and speculated about the future of JRPG, party-based JRPGs having a gotcha format. And perhaps what if the new Persona was that way? Well, instead of that, we're getting a new Suikoden with that same formula.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's just what they do now. Yeah, Jason Schreier on Blue Sky actually said, so it's been a pleasure to play through the new remaster of Suikoden 1 and 2, which comes out tomorrow. The bugs are fixed, the entire script is reworked, and it looks gorgeous. Highly recommend. So there you go. I think a lot of the like middling scores, it's got an 81 on OpenCritic. That's really good. But any of the scores that are below that just tend to be saying we want even more from a collection for a game series that we like as much as this. So kind of no reason to avoid this one if you are looking for the best way to play these games. Sounds like this will deliver exactly that.
Exciting.
All right. Gears of War collection is apparently set for PS5 this year, with E-Day releasing in 2026. This is from George Yang at GameSpot. This is according to reports out there. A Gears of War collection is reportedly going to be announced this summer with a PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S release. Gears of War E-Day also reportedly is targeting a 2026 release window. That's what I heard. They were originally trying to get it out in 2025, But right before announcing it, they're like, let's take that date out of the trailer. Actually, it was going to be in the first like revealed trailer for E-Day because they started talking more and like, there's a good chance it's actually going to be 2026. So that lines up with what I've heard. In the meantime, though, Gears of War Collection could be coming according to leaker Ecstasis. This also goes back a long way to special Nick over Xbox era. He talked about this a long time ago and got a lot of crap because it hasn't happened yet. Well, sounds like it is now. While the exact games in the rumored collection are unknown, it's likely going to at least include the first 3, although the spin-off Gears of War Judgment could be a part of that package as well. The leaker doesn't have any information about a Nintendo Switch 2 port. Gears of War E-Day was reportedly aiming for a 2025 window, but now it's apparently slipped into next year. One notable thing about this is a part of this rumor, and multiple people are saying this, including Jez Corden, shout outs to Jez, that this won't include any multiplayer, this collection. Then throw E-Day to the side. E-Day's not included in that. The collection will just be the campaigns that people can play through without any, like, and it's not going to be like, oh, it's just the multiplayer for Gears of War or Gears of War 2 or Gears of War 3 or some new mode that combines all that stuff so people can play. It sounds like no multiplayer at all. That's a little strange to me because, you know me, I'm a huge Noobs fan, and that's what I think of when I think of Gears of War.
Yes, of course. The 2012 Sabrina Carpenter hit film, Noobs. That feels like a very odd decision, Grub, because some of my fondest memories with the Gears franchise has been the multiplayer, specifically spending hours in the Horde mode with friends on the 360.
Right. Does this just mean no like competitive multiplayer? Does it mean no Horde mode, no cooperative? Like the games were made for cooperative, so I'm assuming it will support that. In my head, I read this as no competitive multiplayer. But you're right, maybe no Horde mode as well.
Yeah, if that's the case, that there's no competitive multiplayer, that's completely fine with me because I could never really click in with that. But if this means we're losing Horde mode, we're losing co-op, that'd be really unfortunate and feels like a weird misstep when you have such a surefire thing as playing through a Gears of War game with your friends on modern consoles.
Yeah, I think let's assume that it's like no multiplayer whatsoever. That is a little that's very strange, I think, actually. I can understand no competitive multiplayer because my guess would be they don't want a competing thing of kind of what happens with Halo, where everyone just always goes back to the Master Chief Collection. And also the Master Chief Collection was a headache for them to get exactly right because people are very particular in what they want from Halo multiplayer, and they messed up that game real bad for a very long time. They probably just like want to avoid that sort of scenario entirely and just say, hey, no, we're going to make new multiplayer for E-Day. Play that. So by multiplayer, again, I mean competitive multiplayer.
Sure.
But I think people will be able to will miss out on much of the joy of Gears of War if it means no co-op. And you might be leaving out some of these new people you're attracting by going to PlayStation if you don't include that. But yeah, this feels like it makes a lot of sense with E-Day coming out here pretty soon. Get everybody primed for that game by getting them back into the story and caring about the lore. That makes sense.
Yeah, especially for folks that may never have checked out the franchise because it was locked to the Xbox for so long. People across the pond on PlayStation. I know I for sure have a couple of friends that never checked out Gears because they never had an Xbox, but I think they'd jump at the chance to play it on a PlayStation 5. It looks like folks are saying that Jez was reporting that no PvP.
Okay,
so
he must have clarified, yes.
Okay, so co-op and possibly Horde, which feels like the right choice.
Co-op for sure. And then Horde mode, I would think, what does that really harm you to include a Horde mode? Because the E-Day could have a new, bigger Horde mode, and actually, I think that could continue like the momentum of Horde mode. The comparison between old style multiplayer Gears of War versus whatever E-Day is going to do is the thing they likely want to avoid and don't want to have to support both at the same time. So again, that makes sense to me.
Do you think we're going to be able to reacquire some of the older, not cosmetics, but guest characters? I know that the New Day were a pack at one point, as well as my dear friend one day. Dave Bautista.
Yes. I think there's a chance for like Dave Bautista. Like that one feels like maybe, because I think you could play as him in the campaign, right? I think they made it work that way. I think a lot of the other stuff was, made for multiplayer, made for those kinds of skins, and so they won't emphasize that. Not really. And I think the focus here is let's get people to care about the Gears of War universe so that we can go into E-Day and have the best success possible.
Yeah.
And to accomplish that, they probably don't want to have too many distractions, including bringing back the New Day and other guest characters. But some of that could happen for sure.
Just give me Dave, please.
Yep. We want that sweet boy. He's a good man. I've played some Gears of War. I could never really get into the campaigns personally. I might give it another shot. We'll see. I don't know what it was. Too deliberate, too slow for me at that time. Maybe my patience hasn't improved. That's a lie. So that's probably not going to change. But who knows? Maybe this game will click with me more now.
It was at least the first game in my mind that had the good old walk and talk to slow you down. Yeah.
Yep.
That and Batman.
Sure.
Yeah, I really enjoyed those campaigns, but mostly it was because I was playing with a friend at least. So if I can continue to do that, I think we'd have a fantastic time, Grub. I'd love to play co-op Gears with you.
Okay, well, yeah, that could be a lot of fun. I know that Dan and his sister did that over the last year or so, and they played through a bunch of those. And yeah, they seemed like they had a real good time. So yeah, I would love to make that happen. And it looks like we're gonna have our chance.
A do-rag, Grub.
Okay, yeah, I could be a Gearsman. Yeah, look at me.
Yeah,
hi, everybody.
Yeah, we're beefy boys here at Giant.
Exactly. Yeah, welcome to the Beefy Boys, and we could all be Gearsmen here. Okay. Yep. Gears of War collection, maybe PS5, probably this year if that's all happening. I actually wouldn't be surprised if it comes to Switch 2 as well. All right. Marvel 1943 voice actor hints at possible release date. This is from George Yang at GameSpot. Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra doesn't have an official release date or even window yet beyond 2025, but according to one of the game's voice actors, we could be playing it by the end of this year. The game's Black Panther voice actor, Carrie Payton, told the Direct, "We're still working, but we're planning on 2025. We're thinking like a Christmas situation, but I am so excited." While the game seemingly already had a 2025 release window, Payton's comments at least narrowed down a potential launch month. While December might be an odd time to release a game, some big ones have released during that month, although I wouldn't assume. But someone says they're going to release it Christmas time. That, to me, means November. That means November, maybe December, but honestly, October, November is much more likely than December. Although, of course, it's not impossible. These games have come out, and games like this have come out in December before. That late in the year, big game. The real reason that they are probably like, hey, we're considering that time of year is the same reason everyone is considering, a nebulous release date for later this year, and that's Grand Theft Auto 6. But if Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out in, a little bit earlier than that, this game probably will not be shy about coming out in November. I think that would make a ton of sense. This is not going to collide too much, although, of course, Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to take a lot of the oxygen out of the room. Where are you at with your excitement for Marvel 1943, which, as a reminder, it's the World War II historically set Black Panther Captain America game from Amy Hennig. This is Amy Hennig's team.
Grub, as I've documented on this website, Captain America is one of my favorite superheroes. So I'm very much excited for this, especially when Carrie Payton was announced to play the Black Panther in this game. For folks that don't know, Carrie Payton, King Ezekiel in The Walking Dead, as well as the voice of Cyborg in the Teen Titans show. So super excited about that. I have no clue what this game is supposed to be like, so I'd like to see some type of gameplay very, very soon. But in any case, Grub, I'm excited because I feel like Marvel had a little bit of a dip with Captain America Brave New World, not quite hitting, but Marvel can still ride the juice from Marvel Rivals, the new Daredevil show that has been received pretty well. And I'm hearing rumblings that Thunderbolts may also be a pretty neat movie.
I hope so.
that Marvel is really betting on, and especially Amy Hennig. I would really love to see what she has been up to for these past couple of years, and I just hope that whatever Marvel steam or Marvel boom is enough to push this game to the finish line. Because other than this, I don't believe we've learned any updates since like maybe the middle of last year.
About this game specifically, you're saying? Yeah. I can't remember the last time we saw it. There's some games that like pop up in a lot of these shows that we sit down and talk over. This is not one of them. It has appeared in stuff, but yeah, you're right. I'm not. Nothing's coming to mind immediately about like, oh, that's when I learned a whole bunch of more new information about what Marvel 1943, which again is that the Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra, what that's all about. So you're right. I'm with you where it's like my expectations for what this game is going to be are still a little bit cloudy. Although, I hear Amy Hennig making a game in Unreal Engine 5, and it's a big budget Marvel game. My expectation is it's a character-driven narrative action game, similar to Uncharted. She made a lot of Uncharted games. Why wouldn't she apply a lot of that learning to this as well? But of course, it's superheroes, so you got to have a little bit more on top of that, and maybe that could distract from just the Uncharted style gameplay. I don't know. You're right. So we probably get more information about this over the summer. You think if it is coming out late this year, this feels like something that could be at like a Keighley Summer Game Fest or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like this could be further revealed during Keighley's summer birthday. Yeah, it feels like, given the pedigree behind the game, it feels like something you could lean part of a summer presentation on.
I think so too. I think it's the kind of thing where it's especially Keighley would love to have it in his show because it does both things he likes to have, which is here's a big movie property or movie characters, and then here's a big game from a big publisher. So yeah, and then also Amy Hennig, someone who's got some name recognition. So actually, it hits like 3 categories that Keighley likes to have for his announcements. So yeah, I think you're right that this could be a keystone in a showcase like that. In the meantime, Marino said the game was announced in April 2022. Wow. Not that long for a turnaround, honestly. So I also wonder, like, what is the scale of this game? Did they really like limit that so they could get this game out in a reasonable amount of time? And if that's the case, I'm like, okay, I'll set my expectations accordingly. Personally, I mean, I don't know what fans are going to do, but I'll be like, okay, if this thing's just like a solid game that with a good story and some fun characters that has some like acceptable gameplay, I'm thinking this Guardians of the Galaxy, a game that I enjoyed playing and then just fell in love with the character, so it put it over the top for me. And if they can kind of nail that, no complaints, right?
No, absolutely no complaints. If this is going to be like a fairly linear joint with some light exploration, I have absolutely no problem. And if that means more of the focus is perhaps on the story or the relationship between Captain America and Black Panther, I'm all for it. Also, Grub, given the state of the world, I want any and every excuse to punch anything Nazi adjacent.
Yeah, especially like, you put Black Panther in that situation and like they can really speak to this. They can really like offer an alternative of like, hey, a better world is possible. Look at this character who's meant to represent that next to or in conjunction with him punching Nazis. And I'm all for that. And and Captain America, that's a good foil. They can bounce off those ideas. And Captain America, historically, his character is always going to eventually go over the line of, hey, you know what? I'm completely on the side of the people punching everyone as a solution to Nazis and all this stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And you're right. Maybe it could deliver exactly what we need right now. Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, is GTA 6 really going to be $100? Everyone is saying. All right, as promised, right back into it. Yet another analyst thinks GTA 6 could be $100. This one comes from Tom Ivan at VGC, who writes, Take-Two could be planning to sell Grand Theft Auto 6 at an unprecedented price point of $100 or more per copy. That's according to Michael Pachter, the managing director of equity research at Wedbush Securities. The analyst discussed Rockstar owner Take-Two's plans for the blockbuster release in a research note distributed this week. He wrote, We think the company has plans to sell the game at a previously unheard of price point and suspect that management can offer consumers an incentive to pay $100 or more per unit by rewarding them with a large amount of in-game currency to be spent in GTA Online. There is a precedent for integrating an online game experience with a premium game, as Activision did so with both Call of Duty Warzone and Call of Duty Mobile content prior to the release of its annual Call of Duty Premium installment, Packard continued. In Activision's case, the integration led to a 40% increase in sales of Call of Duty Premium. In Take-Two's case, we think a successful integration of GTA Online and GTA 6 can lead to a $100 price point for the premium game. So yeah, as noted, when I got into this story, he's not the first analyst to say this. Others have said that they are maybe expecting Rockstar and Take-Two to price it at $100. And I think that, like, we could stop here real quick, Jen, and say these analysts have a reputation for getting a lot of stuff wrong. And I wouldn't look at this that way. This is, does Rockstar and Take-Two, are they beginning to get the permission and sort of the vibes of could they get away with charging more? And that's clearly happening. Two analysts come out there, they're getting headlines. Everyone's like, wait, what? What are you talking about? The pushback is like, man, I hope they don't do that. Not, oh, they couldn't ever do that because it's Grand Theft Auto 6 and everyone knows they could do that. If they charged $100 for this game, is it really not going to sell, Jan?
Well, it's definitely going to sell, Grub. It's just going to be a very tough pill for a lot of people to swallow. That being said, there are people that aren't plugged into like every big game release that just wait for the one or two to hit a console a year, and GTA 6 is one of those games. If we're talking $100, $120 for a special edition that will get you all those goodies you mentioned, for sure, go ahead, do that. But for the base edition of the game, I cannot imagine spending or wanting to spend more than $70. Especially with how video game spending has been on like a slow decline. I just don't know how this helps the industry if the one big game base edition releases at $100, because in the build up to it, a lot of folks are going to hold on to their money because money is tight and they won't want to pick up any other game. I don't think every single game that is coming out can move the needle to start charging $100, because that is insane. I can't. Even a game that I'm a big fan of, I don't think I've ever bought a special edition series release of the game, because I just don't want it. I don't need it. I don't want to spend $100. Now, if that $100 does include like a bunch of currency in the game that'll help you out, maybe you played a week early ahead of time, that's a different story for some people. But I think for everyone does not want this game to be $100, because that also does open up the potential floodgates, Grub, like we've been talking about of, all right, Rockstar can get away with this. Who else is going to try and get away with this moving forward?
Or like, walk up to the line, $80 release for your game instead. Like, hey, that's still $20 cheaper than Grand Theft Auto 6. Come on, guys.
Yeah, that's the other aspect of it.
I don't know with whether or not they'll actually try to do this. I think you're right about, I think it is a bad thing. I don't think this is a solution. I think for analysts, they're like, hey, this is where growth can come from. And it's like the kind of growth of squeezing more blood from the same stone. And it would be bad. You're right. It would hurt other games more than Grand Theft Auto 6 might already hurt other games by taking up the entirety of the spotlight through the end of this year, maybe, or, the first half of next year. And then if it's like also taking up more of people's, discretionary spending, you spend $100 on that thing and it's got all these modes. Maybe you wouldn't have played the online before, but now it's like, God, I got to get my money's worth. So I guess I'm going to use this stuff in there. Like, hey, there's psychological reasons why that they might want to do that, so that you do feel exactly that way. I think that the other side of it of, hey, can they get away with this? They can. I think they will probably recognize that they don't need to get away with it to get a lot of the benefits. It's what you said. There will be an early access version that is $100 that comes with it, that comes with a bunch of bonuses, and it'll look like a deal actually next to the $70 version that will come out like a week, maybe like 2 weeks later if they want to like really like actually wring some money out of that. But like a week later, and it's like, oh, this comes with all this bonus stuff, and I get to play it early, so I don't have to deal with FOMO. I can pay the FOMO tax. That will sell like what, 10 million copies at $100? Like probably more than that, right? So they don't need to do the price increase. They can say, no, this game is $70 and still make $100 per copy price for a good long while.
The thing that I'd like to push forward to all these analysts is a thought that our own Nikki Grayson has had of, hey, instead of making the one big profit, what about we have the smaller profits of good stuff? Isn't that also better of making money through several different things versus hedging all our bets on the one thing that may or may not give us a good return? But if Rockstar chooses to put it at $100, I hope and I wish it is for that instance we're talking about, Grub, that it is like you get early access to that game 2 weeks ahead of time, because people will definitely pony up for the FOMO tax.
Yep. I mean, it's in the air though, right? Like this idea that game prices could go up again here pretty soon after going up to $70. It just feels like if it's not like, we're not putting it out there, but I think also we are playing into it a little bit, as I say, we as people who buy games, a lot of the attention just gets paid to the biggest games. And so if they really are going to be that important to this medium, they are going to feel like, well, maybe we should get some more money. And analysts out there talking this way, and then with tariffs happening, there's just a lot of stuff, a lot of pressures from multiple sides that could, like, these companies will sit down and they will have the conversation. We could raise the price right now, and we probably could get away with it. This might be an opportunity we don't want to miss, so maybe we should increase the price. In that case, I wouldn't be surprised if GTA 6 splits the difference, Jan, goes to $80 for the base version, and then still has a $100 or $120 early access version. Like, these companies can't help themselves at a certain point. And I mean, I don't know what the sort of antidote is to it, because the environment exists, and all of these, we're all operating inside of it, and none of us can do anything to change the environment. And then you're incentivized to exploit the environment, and that would lead to them raising prices.
And there's also the possibility, Grub, that GTA 6 does ship this year, does ship in like the fall sometime. But it's also possible that it launches at $100, $120 for the base edition, and it's broken.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, especially online, right? I expect the campaign. Well, I mean, who knows? That could also be broken, but based on their track record, I expect the campaign to be solid, whatever. But online could easily be very busted. And if you would have to tell yourself, I am getting both of these things if you're going to be spending that amount of money. Yeah. Because otherwise, it really does go down real bad. So if one side or the other is broken, it really will be a huge backlash. And so that, you're right. I think when they sit down and have that conversation, hopefully there's someone in the room saying, look, let's just keep some of that goodwill that we have of putting out a massive game that people have been looking forward to and delivering the 10 out of 10s that they hoped it would be, and not say, and now give us as much money as you possibly can, because we know, first of all, we're going to make that money back on the back end when we sell microtransactions in GTA Online. So making the entry point as friendly as possible, there's some benefits to that as well. But I just don't know if companies are thinking that way right now, or ever.
I was going to say, I think the thought has entered their head and then quickly exited.
Yep. I think you're like, it's the kind of thing where they will pay lip service to maybe, and then be like, yeah, but look at this chart and look how much more money we will make if this thing is basically just $100 for everybody. We'll see. With the way the environment is and just the feeling in the air, it's kind of hard to get my hopes up that this thing will just be $70, but I hope it doesn't go much more above that. All right, let's keep going through the headlines. Xbox's latest system update for Xbox insiders is removing their user profiles. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. Xbox insiders in alpha and alpha skip ahead tiers are experiencing issues with the latest system update, which unexpectedly resets consoles to factory settings, removes profiles, and clears settings. Jan, this happened to me last night. And really, it was my first time booting on my Xbox in quite some time. I made the decision after I got the kids to bed relatively early, got everything kind of settled. And I'm going to sit down, I'll download some games. I'm going to download Forza Horizon 5. I'm in the mood for a game where I just don't have to think about anything. And that hit the spot when I started playing that, by the way. Holy crap, that game owns. It's so good. But I sat down to also install some of the TV apps because I was using this Sony Bravia TV, and it is broken now. It just does not work. It's, all the TV apps on all my TVs are kind of lackluster, but broken on this Sony TV. I'm I have the Xbox. I know that's a good app experience. I'll just install those. And I booted the thing up. It's hey, set up your Xbox, get the app out and set it up. I'm what the hell's happening here? I just thought I haven't used this thing in a while. Something bad happened. The power went out and it reset something. It's no, I think it actually was this bug. Cause I remember I joined the alpha insider skip ahead tier or whatever it is a while back to test something for work. They're going to get this fixed up. This is just for a small group of people. But yeah, if anyone woke up today and you tried to get on your Xbox and you got logged out, it seems like this is the culprit, and Microsoft will have a new update for you. But I think if you just log back in, it worked for me fine after that. Okay. And then you know what, Jan? Those apps, pretty good. Pretty good to just use Disney Plus on there and start rewatching Andor again. Yep.
Oh,
it's real good.
Andor. Oh, grab it. So soon. So soon.
Yep, less than 50 days now. I'm very excited. It's nice because it's when it starts on April 22nd, and they're doing the 4 weeks of 3 episodes each of those weeks. It'll be right in May, which is the Star Wars month. That's when Star Wars comes out. So very cool stuff. All right, prepare for Discord to get way worse. All the good news today. This is from Ethan Gotch at Kotaku. Discord has become a central artery for gaming. It's the default place for companies to build communities around their games and for people who play them to hang out with one another, coordinate gaming sessions, or just shoot the shit about whatever's going on in life. It's one of the least crappy social media platforms out there right now, but it might not stay that way for long. The New York Times reports that Discord's founders are meeting with investment bankers in preparation for a possible IPO, which is initial public offering, as early as this year. While plans can always change, what that means right now is that the meeting place for 200 million monthly users, over 90% of whom use it for gaming, is exploring going from a private company to a public one ruled by the founding principle of the stock market, which is number must go up. We understand there's a lot of interest around Discord's future plans, but we do not comment on rumors or speculation, said a spokesperson to the New York Times. Our focus remains on delivering the best possible experience for our users and building a strong, sustainable business. People might not connect the dots. I think most of our listeners probably do connect the dots. Going public, then platform will get worse. Well, it's the story as old as time now, where you have something that works. I remember the one for me, Jan, that I always think of is Facebook's notifications. It's when I stopped using Facebook. The notifications used to be, here's someone interacting with something that you did, and so here's a notification about that. Oh, useful, wonderful, fantastic. Then, to keep people engaged, the notifications became, here's some bullshit happening anywhere on the website that we think will either upset you or get you to fall down some other rabbit hole so we can keep you on the website longer so you can look at ads longer. And it's, you made this useful tool deliberately worse so that I will use your website more. And that there's a word for that, a term, in shitification. It happens to everything. And now the concern here will be this happens to Discord. It is, late stage capitalism. It is Milton Friedman capitalism of just get as much return as you possibly can, as opposed to the original Adam Smith style of capitalism of, hey, selfishly make the best product you can so you can outcompete the other competitors and so people will choose your product. That's not how it works anymore. This is why the whole system is broken. And now Discord will likely fall down this rabbit hole because it's unavoidable. Once you owe the investors, you have to get more money from the thing you're doing. And it's hard to imagine a world where Discord doesn't begin to fall apart at the seams.
Yeah, I can easily see people I can just see ads all over the place, Grub, where,
Oh yeah.
hey, before you join this video call or this voice channel, you got to listen to this 5-second ad about brawny paper towels.
And how do they get you to look at ads? They will probably have a TikTok style video feed for some goddamn reason, just like every other social media platform has, including for friggin' Twitch and Amazon.
Yes. That Twitch update still baffles me why it was implemented and why it's thought of as a good idea for discovery. It does the opposite. It gets me to close the app on my phone.
Yep, it frustrates me.
But yeah, like it's terrible because us at Giant Bomb, we use Discord a lot. Discord is a central component to a lot of our production. And Jesus, if it starts getting enshittified, like you said, Grub, in some of the ways you presented and some of the ways we're thinking, a lot of people are just going to abandon it.
Yep.
Like it is so useful in terms of like, it is so useful because voice, video quality, sharing gameplay, very streamlined in just sometimes no matter how many systems, how many virtual cables and shoot cables you have plugged into a system, generally Discord will figure it out and do it for you. Now I'm just seeing like, hey, all that support we had, we're going to kind of slow down on that because we got to get these banner ads for every new channel you pop into. Or, gosh, anytime you switch to a different Discord server, perhaps you get served with like a little pop-up ad that you have to click away from. Oh, God, Grub, it's terrible. I suggest we all go to the leading social media app, One Google Doc.
Yep. I was searching my Google Docs the other day and I saw the Google Doc platform the other day that we created, and that was funny. It's hard to imagine the ways in which it will get worse because it's like that's not how our brains are wired, right? It's like, oh, this is the problem. I would improve this. This is how we think about stuff, and then to mutate that, and it's like, okay, how can we put up friction and roadblocks? I remember a term from the early days of free-to-play mobile gaming. It was fun pain. And it was this idea of put some pain in the fun so people will either enjoy overcoming it maybe or pay to avoid it. And that is the design ethos of the entirety of the free web now, because these corporations own so much of it. It is truly, truly devastating that this is what happened to this amazing tool. And hey, if we had like an open source alternative, that would be great. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
But it is hard to compete in that space, or people's time is probably not worth it because they're like, hey, there's other open source things that need tending. There's only so many minds like that can spend their time working on projects, and they're all working on other stuff, mostly trying to get backwards or trying to reverse engineer Xbox games right now. But I want them to do that. So. Yeah, it's a shame. The Discord was the solution to a lot of problems for a very long time. I bet in 5 years we will be looking for the solution to the Discord problem because it went public.
Yeah. I feel like these corporations listened to too much Imagine Dragons because, folks, I am not a sucker for pain.
No.
I don't want that. I would like less friction.
Discord will probably do fine on the stock market, I guess, is the other side of the story. It's got a lot of users, so who knows? I mean, impossible to predict. I'm not telling you to go invest. Don't do that. Also, don't invest when it goes public. That's just for suckers. Usually you don't have the option to, but if you do, because it'll go up initially, but really it's just the people who were in before all that will make the money, and then it'll dive down for a while. Okay, let's get through a couple other stories here. AMD Radeon RX 9070 and 9070 X2 reviews came in this week. It is doing pretty good for that sort of high mid-range range of the GPU spectrum. AMD's Radeon RX 9070 and 9070 XT graphics cards offer strong 1440p and 4K gaming performance, often outperforming NVIDIA's RTX 5070 and competing with the 5070 Ti in rasterized benchmarks. They improve upon previous AMD cards in ray tracing, power efficiency, and upscaling. FSR 4 is much better than previous FSRs, and really the improved ray tracing there is notable because AMD has really lacked there. So it's reached a point where I think people are beginning to describe it as, hey, no, ray tracing on AMD is a real thing now with these cards. Now, the issue is still not anywhere close to how the ray tracing really works on NVIDIA, and the upscaling of FSR also not up to par with DLSS. Now, FSR is in more things, although FSR 4 might be more limited again going forward. It's yet to be seen. That said, these cards are $550 and $600, or $550 and $600 respectively, and to offer a alternative at that price point to NVIDIA is crucial because NVIDIA, we see what happens with them on the high end with the 5080 and then the 5090 in different ways. The 5080 being kind of disappointing, the 5090 being $2,000. There's just no competition to sort of rein NVIDIA in there. This, at the very least, feels like real competition and is a completely acceptable alternative to NVIDIA. It's just, if someone asks me, what do you get? It's like, well, if you have a little bit of money, like the features on the NVIDIA cards are still better. But it is getting to a point where I don't know if that is enough to be like, well, go get the NVIDIA card, especially when I bet the price on, like, there's the real world price and then there's the price that they say that these things are going to cost. With NVIDIA, it like really balloons. It's probably going to balloon here for AMD as well, where you're probably going to struggle to find the 9070 for $550. But I bet you'll be able to find it at a price that still makes more sense than the NVIDIA stuff. So there are the push and pull here. There's give and take. I think the real bottom line here, Jan, is if someone's looking for a graphics card right now, and you can find one of these, if you get one, there's no reason to have regret. This will be more than acceptable. It's going to be a very good card.
Grub, where would you suggest someone, a layman, someone new to PC parts and everything, go to learn about any of this stuff? Because I'm able to understand and parse out most of what you're saying, but some of it just...
Yeah, it's right. So I think if people like want to get like the crash course, the best place is Digital Foundry when they do their reviews, because they know who they're talking to there usually. And they have I think they're well practiced at having the conversation. There's a million YouTube channels that cover PC hardware, and I'm usually of the opinion that they are too in the weeds and they are too dedicated to just the raw numbers, that they forget what it's like to be like in the real world using these things as a real person a lot of times. But if you just want a lot of raw numbers, there's plenty of places to get like the raw numbers, and they will explain stuff. They will make sure that you mostly understand what's happening there. But I like, if you're curious, like the PC Perspective podcast and the Full Nerd podcast from PC World, those are pretty good, pretty solid stuff.
This is why I always enjoyed those early GB videos of Brad building a PC, because I wasn't quite able to understand everything that he was talking about. But I was able to like, okay, well, that's how you connect that. I guess I need one of those, and I need that too. Okay. All right, cool. Thanks, Brad.
Yep. Bottom line, like as Sean says here in layman's terms, this is probably better than NVIDIA. He says it's better than NVIDIA. It's probably better than NVIDIA if your budget is $600-ish. The reality there is you're going to struggle to find the $600 NVIDIA card for $600. And then, a lot of the stuff that used to really put NVIDIA ahead, like the encoding. Like encoding was much better on NVIDIA for a very long time. NV encoder has been very good. Excellent. It's what we use for a lot of our stuff when we're encoding stuff at Giant Bomb. It's what I use all the time. It's what you should be using if you have an NVIDIA card. The AMD answer to that was always a little bit disappointing. Now it's not. Now it's good. So that's like, okay, one checkbox where it's like you're not missing anything if you go to AMD. The ray tracing mostly being solved for AMD is also pretty good, but now a lot of people still are not turning ray tracing on because they spent $600 on a card. They don't want to see 30 frames per second. They want to still get 60 frames per second. But, with the upscaling, you'll probably be able to get that now with an AMD card. I think the general consensus here is if you are looking for something in this range, AMD probably is the right answer. I tend to agree with that. All right. Last thing I have here. Yes. Metacritic's 15th annual game publisher rankings came out. Jan, have you looked at this?
No, I haven't gotten the chance to look at it yet. Okay.
Well, then in that case, who do you think was the number one publisher according to Metacritic from 2024? It is a big name, but it's not one of the big three console manufacturers. I'll give you that much.
Is it epic?
It's not epic. So the way that Metacritic would rank this is on number of new games released and then their Metacritic score.
Ooh, okay. I don't think is it. Is it Sega?
It is Sega. It is the Sega Corporation. Well done, Jan Ochoa. Sega had 3, quote unquote, great games as rated by Metacritic's review aggregation methodology. And then it had 29 products released, 86% of which were good, 0% of which were bad. And again, these are like, if you have a certain score, you go into these categories. Number 2 is Capcom, which had 0, like, quote unquote, great games, but 100% good and 0% bad. So, and then had 25 products. So Sega released a few more games, and then had more games that were just unqualified, massive successes. And those were things like Metaphor Refantasio, right? That really helped put them over the top. I think they also had Persona 3 Reloaded. Was that last year? Yeah. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
The combination of just like putting out banger after banger from them really helped put them over the top. So other game publishers in the top 10. I'll move up from 10 this time. 10 was Annapurna Interactive. Number 9 was Microsoft, which had 1 great game, 77% good games versus 0% bad games. Number 8 was Raw Fury. Number 6, this is a tie for number 6, so there's number 7. Square Enix and Gamera Games. What does Gamera Games do? Shogun Showdown, an open world puzzle adventure, Isles of Sea and Sky. Right. Okay. Interesting. Number 5 was Focus Entertainment. Helped out big time there by Warhammer 40K. Space Marine 2.
Cool.
That'll put them over the top. Number 4, Sony. Astrobot was a huge part of that. I think they also had, they benefited from The Last of Us Part 2 remastered. And then number 3 is Axis Games, whose best game from 2024 was Spirit Hunter Death Mark 2 on the Switch. They had 5 games, 100% of which were good. So well done. All right, poll question. Let's get to that. I have that over here. Let me refresh the screen, make sure that I have the most recent up-to-date information. This is from yesterday. Which style of Tony Hawk do you prefer? Do you prefer time-limited 2-minute sessions like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 or open with no time limit like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4? I do prefer 2 minutes. I'm going to vote for that. And I only have 43% of the audience with me. 57% prefer open with no time limit. So maybe that is going to be a problem for this game, where the word is the way that it's phrased from Activision, that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 will be streamlined and reworked to include the 2-minute time limit, just like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 1+2. I can't remember. How did you feel about this, Jan?
I'm of the mindset that 2 minutes is the right call. I guess I mostly don't remember 4 well at all then, because I forgot that it abandoned the 2-minute.
It wasn't fully like a thug game, but it was the in-between.
Right. I don't know. 2 minutes just feels good because then it kind of just, it makes you learn the level very fast, because then you're like hopping and bopping to the specific spots to get 5 of whatever, or the skate letters or the secret tape. And also it just felt like a nice rush to try and get your top score within 2 minutes.
Yep. I always preferred that, because for me, it was always about getting the score. That was the key thing. And then having all the other stuff around there. Well, while I was discovering the best line to maximize my score multiplier, I would discover things. I'd see them, kind of add them to the brain. But all right, now I'll do a run here while I'll try to get all that stuff now that I've discovered enough of the level. And I was kind of just doing that in bursts in 2 minutes. And that always really worked for me. And also I was constantly restarting that game. I'd bail once, like, okay, restart. And going right back into the 2-minute flow of that always felt good. But I also really fell in love with American Skateland for the DS, and that one I think was open. You were just kind of exploring. Both styles can work. I do wonder if when fans of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 get their hands on it, if they'll be really annoyed that it's changed, because they want it to be that free skate style. Now, free skate's still an option in there, but people like to do the missions in without a time limit as well. So we'll see. That was, almost 2,000 people voted on that, so pretty good response. We'll see. We'll see if this actually hurts the game when it's out. All right, got a new poll question we'll get to here in a second. Before we do that, Jan, let's just talk it out. We're on Giant Bomb. What do we got happening?
Yes. If you are watching live, please stay tuned. Tam and Lucy are going to start playing Split Fiction a little bit after we wrap over here. And then as soon as those two wrap, we will all get on board the voicemail dump truck later today. Also, tomorrow, we're going to have another episode of Game Mess Mornings, soon to be renamed, as well as the Powerbomb Cast, a UPF, and then GameSpot After Dark. Full days, Grub.
Yep, that's right. It's been good so far in terms of just the way I think the content actually is presenting on screen and the way that one thing flows into the next. People have been watching everything. It's nice to see. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody.
Also, folks, I know there are some reservations if you can't go and watch most of the stuff live. It will just take a little bit of time to get the VODs posted afterwards, mostly just because just tightening everything up, cleaning everything up, and then uploading it does take a little bit of manpower and time. So a little bit of patience, please. But most, if not everything, will get posted to the Giant Bomb YouTube. GameSpot YouTube will have some cut down stuff as well.
Yep, and so that's all part of the, hey, we're figuring out the process for all this stuff. That continues to be the headache here, and we'll figure it out. All right, new poll question. Do you use Discord, yes or no? I just want to see how many people this is going to affect. If it goes bad, we'll figure it out together, everybody. We'll get the results of that poll on Game S Mornings here on Giant Bomb. Tomorrow, we will have a show. I believe Tam will be back. We'll hang out with him, talk about this and more. In the meantime, anything else we have happening? Actually, Jan, I'm just realizing, I don't think I'm going to be able to do voicemail dump truck today. You think we could find somebody to sit in?
Well, Nikki Grayson, if you're listening,
Nikki,
hop on board.
We need you. I think I have a parent-teacher conference I got to go to today.
Gross.
Right. Yeah, that's how it goes. Janet Cho, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
It's the only way to start a Thursday, Grub.
Thank you all for watching and listening. You are the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.